Good morning, everyone. What's up? Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. What's up? What's up, everyone? Yes, good morning. We're going to go over the pre market prep for today, which is August the 18th. Over the weekend, not too much news. We're down about 0.2% here in the overall markets. As for this week, the red folder news, we'll talk about this coming into this week. We do have FOMC minutes, not the big FOMC, so it's not the top three news event, but we'll still talk about kind of the red folder news event and all the other events that are coming up coming into this week here in a second. Before we do that and go on to the charts, what's up, everyone? Good morning. What's up, B Roots? What's up, JT, Daniel, Ryan, Hartik? What's up, KO, Robert, Luis, Jesse? What's up, Melissa, Wayne, Joseph, Audrey, Vade, Nontali? Good morning, Juan, Victor, Chris, Eileen, Hugo. Good morning, Jeff, Darth, Luis, Tan, Wallace, I am. What's up, Smart, Jorge, Dev, Brian? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's head on to the weekly outlook and then we'll head on to some charts. So let's first go on to the key economic events coming into this week. So what we have coming into this week, at least for red folder news wise, we do have FOMC minutes. This is going to be on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is not the actual FOMC statement, it's FOMC minutes. So we can be looking for trades beforehand on Wednesday. As for Thursday, unemployment claims at 8:30, and then 9:45 we have flash services along with the Jackson Hole. That is going to be on Thursday, and then Friday, similar thing. We have Fed Chair Powell speaking along with Jackson Hole once again. So we'll keep an eye out on FOMC minutes and then flash services, and then we'll keep an eye out when Fed Chair Powell speaks later into the week. As for the earnings calendar, not really too much anymore. All the major earnings have already reported, but if you are still trading a couple of these names or maybe invested in a few of these names, right, make sure you understand that we do have earnings on some of them. We have Home Depot on Tuesday, where we have Target, Nordstrom, Walmart on Thursday, Zoom as well. A couple of these other names, smaller names that do have earnings, but this is good to keep an eye out on if you are still trading these. All right. Let's go on to the higher time frames and let's talk about the ES. So right now you can see that the ES had a very nice move towards the upside, towards the previous all-time highs. Right now you can see that we're basing above the previous all-time highs, 6467. What I like to see coming into next week is the reaction that we have off that level. For upside, I like to see it maintain above your 6467. All right, let's hop on to the ES chart. So as you can see here for the ES, at least if we're on the daily chart, the key level that we have marked out is just going to be our previous all-time highs. So you can see the first dip got bought up, and you can see now ES had a nice push towards the upside, towards our all-time highs last week. Now, if you want to see continuation, really what I like to see is it hold this previous all-time highs pivot point. So for the overall market, you can see the previous all-time highs. You can see this down close candle. What I'd like to see is really the ES maintain above this level for continuation towards the upside. What I don't want to see is a kind of a break back underneath. If we break right back underneath, we're just going to come right back towards really this level of consolidation, this range that we do have. So what I would like to see, as I mentioned, maintain above this 6467. If you go on to the lower time frames, we're on the 1 hour chart currently. What I would like to see here for the ES is the reclaim and maintain really above this level right here, which is going to be that 6467. If you can reclaim back above this level, we can see this nice continue push back up and towards our all-time highs and above. If we end up rejecting off this level, there is a possibility we could see some more downside coming into this week, which is going to be back down in towards the area we broke out from, 6430. So it's all dependent on this level coming into today. That's 6467 here on the ES. If we're looking at the SPY chart, very similar coming into today. The key levels that I have marked out is going to be this 642. You can see we've had multiple touches from last week. This is the exact area where we also based from. So you can see this is our level of consolidation essentially. If we break underneath this 642.60, there is a potential that we could see some more continuation lower down in towards that 638. This is a possibility here for the SPY. What I personally like to see is the base above, right? Reclaim, push back up and towards the highs, which is going to be this 645. But I'm not opposed to playing both sides. So the key level, as you can see, it is your previous day lows, your Thursday's lows, along with your Wednesday's lows. So we have multiple touches, 642, very key level here for the SPY if we want to potentially break underneath, or we hold and we continue back towards the upside. So keep an eye out on your previous day lows coming to today here for the SPY. As for the NQ chart, let's go into that. Thesis for this coming week. Right now, you can see that NQ right around an all-time highs level. Last week, we had a nice push towards your all-time highs after that first dip that got bought up on the daily time frame. What I like to see now is the reaction that we have off your previous down close candle from July the 31st. That is going to be the key level moving forward. So as you can see here for the NQ, very similar thesis to the ES. Key levels that we have marked out now is just going to be our previous level where we had our all-time high. So this is the level that we have marked out from the wick all the way to the body. If you watch my last week's video, that's essentially your down close candle. That's your order block here. This is the big level here for the NQ. It's a little bit weaker than the ES. But for the NQ, what I like to see is now the reclaim back above this down close candle for this continued push back towards the upside. If we're on the 1 hour chart, as you can see, key levels that we have marked out is our 23,800. You can see in this case, the NQ is a little bit weaker than the SPY. You can see we have multiple touches in this general area. What I would like to see is the reclaim back above. You can see for the ES, we're basing above, whereas the NQ is in a very small downtrend from last week. So for the NQ, you can see it's a little bit weaker here than the SPY. The next level here for the NQ is going to be all the way back down in towards your 23,650. So that's what you have for the NQ. If we reject off this level, your 23,800, the next level towards the downside is going to be all the way back down in towards this key level support, which is essentially your CPI low, your 23,650. So two possible scenarios coming into today. We're going to be looking for the reaction that we have off of your 23,800. You also have your previous day lows marked out and your key level of support. So for upside, a few scenarios we like to see the base and bounce kind of off your 23,660, the reclaim back above your 23,800. For some downside, what we like to see pop and fade off this 23,800, or now it's going to be the break underneath your previous day lows for this continued push back down in towards this 23,660. So these are the levels that we can have marked out on the SPY coming into today. We can mark this out and drag it over. As for the QQQ, the key levels that we have marked out is going to be this 577. So you can see this is essentially your CPI high. This is the area that we broke out from. So this is a very key level, 577. Also your previous all-time highs, as you can see, all the way back from July the 30th. So this is a very key level here for the Qs. If we break underneath, which we're trying to do here in the pre-market, and we stay heavy, the next level is going to be down in towards that 573. That's the key level here on the higher time frames, and we could be looking for, right, the higher low off your 573. If we want to reclaim coming to market open above your 577, we could be looking for potential longs above your 577 if we hold. As I mentioned, right, either pop and fade or the reclaim back above that 577. So that's what we have for the major indices coming into today. Now let's go on to some of the tech names that we are looking for. Good morning. What's up, everyone? All right, let's head on to let's actually go on to this. All right, first things first, Tesla. Thesis for this coming week. Last week, Tesla tried to break out of the downtrend that we formed. You can see this one is now pulling back towards that retest level. What I like to see coming to next week is the reaction that we have off the 325 key level. I like to see if buyers can step in off that 325. All right, so for Tesla, If we look at this from a higher time frame perspective, we're essentially just consolidating still. We did break outside of this downtrend that we had formed, but really not too much continuation. We're actually just about to retest this general level, which is at 325. So this is exactly where the buyers have to step in. Essentially the retest of this downtrend, the retest of that 325. This is where you want to see buyers step in for this potential push back up and towards the 350 and above here on Tesla. So as you can see right here, we have this initial breakout. Now we're coming back down to retest this general level. What we like to see, is buyers step in right off this essentially right off this 326. So we're on the 15-minute time frame currently. We can see we're in a downtrend last week. Now coming into this week, what we like to see here is really the reaction. We can actually readjust this level here as well in towards that previous day lows, that 327. So coming into today, what I like to see is a few things, right? One of two things. Either the bounce off that 327, we can see some buyers step in and potential continuation back towards the upside. If we want to stay heavy, which currently is showing a little bit of weakness, break underneath their previous day lows, we could be looking for the retest underneath their previous day lows for this continuation lower. So 327 is going to be key here to see if the buyers want to step in. Other levels that I do have marked out as well is going to be this 331. So for longs, I prefer it above your 331, which is going to be your Thursday's lows for potential reclaim back towards the upside. We could also be looking for kind of the bounce off your previous day lows. This is also a play here back towards the highs as well. So you can see multiple touches, very key level on both these levels. So we'll keep an eye out on your 327 along with this 331 here. As for Nvidia, thesis for this coming week, right now you can see that Nvidia has been consolidating for the last week and a half. What I'd like to see is the push up in towards the all-time highs. In order for this to happen, I'd like to see buyers step in off the 179 and push up in towards your 184 on the higher time frame. So Nvidia has been consolidating for the better part of the past week and a half. What I would like to see now, you can see this lower wick being put in here on the daily chart. Higher lows are still intact on this name. So I would like to see now this push up in towards your all-time highs. We do have earnings in about 2 weeks here on Nvidia. But I would like to see now the reclaim back above your 179, which so far we are holding. And I would like to see this continue push back up and towards the top of the range, which is going to be this 184. So you can see right here on Nvidia, we have multiple touches at the bottom of the range. We have about 3 to 4 touches or almost 5 touches here at this 179 key pivot level. Now what I like to see is buyers step in and push this back up and towards the top of the range, which is going to be this 184. So we like to go from range low all the way back up and towards your range high. So that's the levels I have marked out. I still have marked out your 179. I still have marked out your 184. For upside, you like to see it maintain above this level for continuation. If you're leaning a little bit more towards the downside here, you like to really see the break underneath. Now it's going to be this 179 along with your previous day lows for any sort of continuation towards the downside here on Nvidia. As for some other charts here, we have Apple, really nice continuation towards the upside on Apple. What I like to see is all dips get bought up on this name. Key levels of support is the 230. If we can maintain above this level, I'd like to see this push up in towards the 235 and above. All right, so for the Apple chart, this is one of my favorite here on the higher time frame as well. Key levels that we have marked out is that down close candle here on the daily time frame. So for Apple, you can see we have a very strong breakout towards the upside. We have our down close candles marked out, which is this down close candle right here. You can see we end up tapping into it here on Friday. Now, as long as you maintain above key levels, I like to see this continue push back towards the upside. So for Apple, you can see very nice base that we're pushing higher. Key levels are hit. We're now trying to base above this previous retest level. You can see break above. Now we're retesting. What I like to see is this continue push back up and towards your 235 here and above. So key levels coming into today that I have marked out is going to be this 230.50. And then I also have the top of the range, which is going to be this 235. So for Apple, what I would like to see now, maintain above your 230.50 for this potential push back up and towards your previous day highs and above, which is going to be that 235 here on the higher time frames. Either way, if we look at this on the higher time frames, Apple looks really good, right? Nice continuation higher. Now we're basing above that 230.50. I like to see this continuation up and towards that 235. If it breaks underneath, then the next level of support is going to be this 226, and that would still be very much bullish towards the upside as well. Let's go into the next charts that we do have AMD thesis for this week. What I like to see in this next coming week is the reaction that we have off the gap fill area. We just hit a very key level being the swing high from earlier. The higher time frames is still very much intact on this theme. I like to see this higher lows be intact for continuation towards the upside. So for AMD, we end up hitting a very key level last week, which was that 185, and you can see a little bit of reaction off this general area, and now we're essentially pulling back right in towards the level that we broke out from, which is going to be that gap fill. So we had that gap fill that we created. Now we're coming back to fill the gap. I like to see if buyers can step in off this 175, also build higher lows off this general area. So 175 is going to be my key level. It's your level that we broke out from, also your gap fill. I like to see buyers step in off this level. Another possible scenario is the reclaim back above your 179.77 for potential continuation back towards the highs here as well. So that's what we have for AMD coming into today. We're going to keep an eye out on that 174.50s. Let's go on to the next chart that we have. The next chart that we have in this case is Meta. Meta, nice push towards the upside last week with this one being at all-time highs. I would like to see if higher lows and market structure will stay intact for continuation. Key levels that I have marked out is your 785 and your all-time highs 795. So for Meta coming into this week, the key levels that we have marked out is your previous all-time highs, which is the day after earnings, 875, and we also have your 895 marked out. So for Meta, you can see nice push here on Friday, a little bit of reaction off of your all-time highs. Now we're having a little bit of a pullback here. So for Meta, key levels that I have marked out, 785. We have your all-time highs, 795, and then towards the downside now, really what I have is going to be the 770s. So for Meta upside, reclaim back above your 784 for this continued push higher. If we end up rejecting off this level, we could see a little bit more downside back down in towards that 772. All right. We have one more chart here. Amazon, nice earnings gap fill back towards the upside. This one moved nicely back towards that highs. What I like to see now is a potential push towards the earnings high, which will be your 236 here and above. So for Amazon, this one ended up having a nice push back towards the upside last week because we had this earnings high plus this gap fill. As you can see, we were able to reclaim back above that 226. Nice continued push back towards the upside. Next levels towards the highs is going to be this 236, which is the day of earnings. That's the high that we have marked out. Plus, we also have this earnings high, which is going to be this 242. So what I like to see here on Amazon, if we want to see any sort of continuation, it's going to have to be the reclaim back above this 243, which is your previous day highs for a move towards the upside. So levels we can have marked out previous day lows. We can also have marked out your previous day highs, right? Reclaim back above your 230 for continuation, or now it's going to be above your 234 for this continued push back towards the upside here as well. Okay. Yeah, so that's the charts that I have for coming into this week. If you guys do have any charts or tickers you'd like me to go over, I'll go over them now. I'll go over my top watches here in a second. All right. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can drop them in the chat now. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop me a like. If you guys want to join the watch list, that one is in the description as well. Okay, so for my top watches coming into today, with the overall market kind of pulling back here, right around your previous day lows, and a very key level here as well We're going to keep an eye on this 577. That's going to be key. So for the overall market, I'm fairly neutral here, right? I'm still leaning a little bit more bullish because we are above your previous all-time highs here on the SPY, but the SPY is a little bit more bullish than the QQQ in itself. As for my top watches, for upside, I don't really have too much. A lot of these ones are pulling back with the overall market. Not too many names that are leading, so this is a sign that momentum is slowing down just a little bit. But for my top watches, at least on the higher time frame wise, I do like Nvidia, kind of this bounce off your 179 for this potential push back up and towards the highs. So we'll keep an eye out on Nvidia coming into this week, just because it's been consolidating for quite a bit. As for AMD, a lot of these ones as well were going to be bounce plays. My main ones will be Apple for continuation higher. So I like Apple. Nvidia looks good. Tesla, if you can show a little bit of strength and potentially reclaim back above this 331, I'd be interested for a push higher. I'm actually interested in Tesla for downside as well if we can break underneath. So no buys here on Tesla. I'm open to playing both sides on this ticker. As for a few other names, I still like Google. So Google, we do have room up and towards your all-time highs, which is going to be that 208. You can see we're basing above this 205. We had this nice push towards the upside here on Friday. A lot of these big wicks are happening here on Google that are just pushing higher but immediately getting bought back up. But for Google, what I like to see reclaim back above this 205. If we can now push back up and towards this 207, you can see this push up and towards that all-time high. So we'll keep an eye out on Google. And then for the rest of the names, we'll just keep an eye out on the reclaim back above your previous day low. So we don't have too much that I'm looking for now. It's really just going to be based off of intraday price action, but primarily we'll keep an eye out on Nvidia, Apple, along with Google. All right, now let's take a look at some of these names that you guys have. All right, let's see. I see a lot of people talking about CRWV. So for CRWV, you can see this one recently had earnings last week. Big drop towards the downside. You can see now we're underneath key levels here as well, which is that 100 key psych. You can see we have multiple touches in this general area. We're actually reclaiming it so far. So you can see a little bit of a mean reversion today, back up and towards your 106 and above. If we get back underneath your 100 key psych, that's going to be some more downside underneath that 100 and then get back underneath that previous day highs. But so far for CRWV, showing a little bit of strength here in the pre-market, now basing above your previous day highs. What I like to see for more upside is the hold above your previous day highs 101 for this push back up and towards this 107 here. So that's what we have for CRWV coming into today. As for Hood, this one looks good here, just basing right after this huge and nice breakout towards the upside. This is the exact level we're bouncing from. We reclaim back above this earnings high here as well. So what I like to see here for Hood is now maintain above your 111.50. So 111.50, very key level here for Hood. We could be looking for the bounce off 111.50, or now it's going to be the reclaim back above this 113.50 for a continuation higher. Preferably, you like to see scenario number 2 play out if you want to see this continue push back up and towards your 116 here and above on Hood. I would be a little bit more bearish if we can break back underneath this 111. I would flip a little bit more bearish here, at least on the higher time frame. So that's what we have for Hood. As for Palantir, this is a name that we talked about showing a little bit of relative weakness last week, especially on Friday, showing some weakness underneath that 180. You can see this nice continue push lower. Now the next logical level all the way back down and towards that earnings high. So for Palantir, this is your key level of support 172. You expect this to push down and towards that 172 key level, which is that earnings high coming into today. So levels that we have marked out essentially is going to be this 176. This is the level that essentially we're basing from on Friday. We're well underneath this level here. We do have your previous day lows, but you can see pretty big wick. You like to see kind of this pop and fade down in towards your previous day lows along with your 172 here on the higher time frame. So for Palantir, you can look to potentially short it down in towards that 172, or now you're just going to be waiting for this potential bounce play off this 172 for this continued pushback towards the upside. All right, let's go over a few other tickers. INTC. This one showed a little bit of a volume last week along with UNH. This one had a nice push towards the upside. You can see we're above this earnings high. So for Intel, nice kind of push towards upside with a lot of volume. We're basing above this earnings high here. So this is the exact level that price, in my opinion, has to hold. This earnings high, very key level, 24 along with your high from last week. So if buyers do want to step in, you like to see them step in off this 24 key psych level for this continued push back towards upside. What we don't want to see, break back underneath this 24 and push all the way back down in towards your 2320 towards the low. So that's what we have for INTC. As for a few other names that we have, I went over Palantir, ADAP. Yeah, this one's just a penny stock. This one's just going to continue lower. You do have this pop, but this is more based off of, right, actual, not technicals, but based off momentum and sentiment instead of actual technicals in itself. All right, let me go over gold. Yeah, so gold, I look at this one every time. It's just been consolidating. I mean, even higher time frames, very hard to trade it just based off the trend. Lower time frames here as well, very hard to trade this. So not too much to talk about here on gold. Even if you go into the 1 hour chart, you can just see not doing really anything. For the past, basically, if you look at this, for the past 7 days, we've been stuck in about a 40-point range. So I'm not sure how you guys are trading this, or this on the higher time frames or even on the lower time frames. Just a lot more consolidation on this ticker. Maybe you can be looking for smaller time frame trades, but that's about it. There's not really too much to talk about on this one. As for IWM, so IWM is basing nicely here above that 226. So we had this nice break towards the upside last week. Now we're coming back down to retest this 226, which is essentially your retest level. Now you can see the buyers are stepping off this 226. What I would like to see now, maintain above your 226 for this continued push back towards the upside, or now it's going to be the break back above your previous day highs for this continuation towards the highs here as well. So for IWM, these are the levels that we can have marked out. We can actually just refine this in towards your previous day highs. So we have your 226 along with this 228.50 for this continued pushback towards the upside. All right, let me go over a few more tickers here. Google went over that one. NQ already went over the key levels for NQ coming into today. I usually go over most of these tickers before. If they're on the left-hand side, I usually go in order and just go all the way from top down into the bottom. As for the NQ, the key levels that we have marked out is just going to be your previous day lows. We have this 23,800. And then we also have all the way back down in towards that 23,670. So at least coming into today here for QQQ, if you want to see any sort of continuation higher, it has to be the reclaim back above this 23,800, right? This bounce off your previous day's lows is also in play, but you'd like to see it back above this 23,800. As for some downside, if we break underneath your previous day lows and hold, we could see some more downside back down in towards that 23,670 here on the higher time frames. The QQQ key level, previous day lows along with this 577. All right, AVGO. So as for AVGO, recently coming off of your all-time highs, higher time frame still very much intact on this ticker. Key levels now that we're just going to have marked out is going to be this 308. So this 308, we have your previous all-time highs. This is the level that we like to see reclaim if you want to see any sort of continued pushback towards the upside. This one, the higher time frames doesn't look as much as clear just based off of last week's price action, but key levels that we have marked out is going to be this 303 along with this 308. This is the level you like to see for a continuation higher or the potential bounce off this 303 for this pushback towards the upside here as well. Are you trading stocks or options? I'm personally trading options. Gotta love, let's see, can you make a new video on how to find key levels on 1 hour time frame, please, and how do you and which key levels to look for? All my levels are all just based off of primarily previous day highs and previous day lows. So just mark out old highs and old lows on the 15-minute or the 1 hour time frame. As for Pawn W, so basically now with the overall market slowing down here, we're just basically looking for most names that do have momentum. That's going to be key if you want to see any sort of continuation. We're just going to be looking for names that are either leading the market back towards the upside or that have any sort of news. So for Pawn W, key levels that we have in this case is going to be your previous day highs, which is going to be this 177. We like to see now maintain above this 177 if you want to see any sort of push back up and towards your last week's highs and above, which is going to be this 180. So we can actually just mark this out. Right, previous day highs. Other levels we can have marked out is going to be your previous week's highs, in this case, which is your 180.50. As for other names, UNH. So UNH, nice first dip that got bought up. So we talked about this one here on Friday after this news that we had. Nice pop towards the upside. And now we had this nice continuation up and towards your pre-market highs. The next key levels that we have marked out here on UNH is now going to be your previous day highs. So your previous day highs, we can have marked out in combination with your pre-market highs from Friday. So this is the exact level. It is your 310. So it's your 310. We have this previous day highs marked out. This is the exact level we like to see maintain for a push up and towards your pre-market highs now and above, which would be your 322. So we can keep an eye on UNH just because it had news recently, higher time frame, moving up nicely here as well. If we're looking at this on the daily chart, really the next logical levels I have marked out is going to be this 322 and all the way back up and towards your 340 here on UNH. So we'll keep an eye on UNH. As long as it maintains above your previous day highs, we can expect continuation higher. So we'll keep an eye out on the previous day highs bounce for this continuation towards that 322. Let me scroll down here as well. All right. Let's see. Great video on Saturday. Appreciate that. Let's see. Apple, if it comes back down towards 226, wouldn't it break structure, an indication for a downtrend? So for Apple, right, it would break structure on the, let's say, the 15-minute time frame. But on the higher time frame, it'd still be very much intact, right? If you're on the 1 hour time frame, right, it would be a little bit more neutral at this point. If it broke underneath this 331, it would potentially be a head and shoulders. But at least on the daily time frame wise, I'm still very much bullish. It would still be just coming right back down and towards this down close candle. Of course, I'd like to see it hold this 230. That's going to be the most bullish price action if we can hold this 230. If it comes back down, then later we would be looking for the reclaim back above and the invalidation of that head and shoulders. Yes, we trade options. Nice guidance on the order blocks. Many thanks. Yes, Netflix. I already went over that one. So yeah, most of these tickers, I probably went over UNH as well. Does previous day highs and lows thesis combined with the 20-40 day work with futures? Yeah, you don't have to use 20 to 40 days. If you just have to look at the past 3 to 5 sessions. If you're day trading, past 20 to 40 days is primarily on the daily chart. And if you don't have any other information to go off of. All right, let me go over a few more tickers here, and then I'll most likely get ready for market open. I really actually don't see too much. Let's see, Hood. During these periods when the overall market is slowing down, as I mentioned, we're going to be more focused on intraday setups, kind of scalps, instead of these higher time frame continuations. And then we're just going to be more focused on intraday price action, essentially. SoFi still looks good, right? Higher lows are being bought up here. Let me just quickly scan through a few tickers to see if I like anything. Yeah, Circle, just a lot more, still a continuation towards the downside. A little bit of a bounce here. Key level here is going to be this 150. We recently had earnings, so potential kind of earnings reversal play here on Circle if we can reclaim back above your 150. If we hold underneath this 150, then we're just going to see some more continuation towards the downside. Okay. Let me go on to, let's see. Are you using any custom indicators to draw those levels? No, we're drawing them manually, but we do have some indicators as well, just for intraday levels. But at the higher time frame levels, we are working on something. I still have to test it. Do you use stops with small caps because they're too unstable? Yeah, I'd use stops for sure. But those ones, I would still use primarily mental stops, but you can still have, right? Those ones are a little bit more manipulated, but you can still have either hard stops or you can have a fixed hard stop, or you can still have a mental stop as well. All right. Let me go on to my game plan, at least coming into today here, and then I will get ready for market open. So for the overall markets today, as I mentioned, I'm fairly neutral. We're closer to your previous day lows. So coming into today here for the SPY, if you get underneath your 642, there's a potential for some more downside back down in towards your 638. So I wouldn't be opposed to looking for continuation lower underneath your previous day lows today here for the SPY. As for the QQQ, key levels that we have marked out is going to be this 577 along with your previous day lows. If we maintain underneath these key levels, I'm going to be leaning a little bit more towards the downside. If I'm looking for some downside, I like the SPY. I also do like the Qs a little bit more just because it's relatively weak. As for names I do like coming into today, I'm just a little bit more neutral. There's nothing that's really standing out to me a lot. I'm fairly neutral here on the indices. I'm fairly neutral here on the tech names as well. So for Nvidia, I'm still bullish here on the higher time frames, but just a lot more consolidation now. I would like to see buyers kind of step in off this 179 if you do want to push back towards the upside here on the overall markets, but it's going to have to hold key levels, show some strength intraday. Apple's really the only ticker I do like for continuation higher just based off of last week's price action and on the higher time frames if you can maintain above this 230.50 for this continued push higher. So I like Apple. Tesla, I'm open to playing both sides off of the reaction that we have on your previous day lows along with your Thursday's lows here as well. So the reclaim back above your 331 is in play. A potential bounce play off this 327 I do like for a continuation higher. And then Google, potentially if it shows some strength above your 205, we can be looking for continuation towards upside. Another name that I do like for longs is going to be UNH. Not a name I normally play, but this one, higher time frame looks good. Plus we have news. Now we're gapping up above your previous day highs. What I like to see maintain above this 309 for this continued push, potentially up and towards your pre-market highs and above, which will be your 322. So we'll keep an eye out on UNH coming into today here as well. As for the rest of the tickers, a lot more neutral here. Meta, more neutral. Amazon, fairly neutral here as well. We can mark out your previous day lows. As for what else? AMD, this one pulling back here. We do have this gap fill back from last week that we broke out from. So for AMD, this is a key level I like to see buyers step in. So potential kind of bounce play here on AMD off your 174 is in play. So we can keep an eye out on AMD coming into today for a move back up and towards this 179. But that's really about it. A lot more neutral, as I mentioned. I don't have too many top watches. We'll keep an eye on these ones. I have a soft bias. So what this means coming to today, I have a soft bias instead of a hard bias, which is right. I'm very bullish or very bearish on a ticker where most timeframes are aligning. A soft bias just means right open to playing both sides. I'm not, if market tells me or if market right invalidates my thesis coming to market open, then I'm not going to be overly biased and stick to the bias that I created here in the pre-market. So a lot of soft biases on most tickers. Now we're just waiting for the reaction off of key levels that we do have. And then we're just going to wait for intraday price action as well. So that's what we have at least coming into today. It's most likely kind of shaping up for this week as well until otherwise stated. As for the overall market, where momentum is slowing down just a little bit here. So now we're just going to be focusing on names that do have news, as I mentioned, which is something like UNH. So we can focus in here on UNH coming into market open. All right. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it for me today. I do see some questions here. I'll probably answer questions and go over some charts for a few more minutes, and then I'm just going to call it a day here. Let's see. It seems like a penny stock, but yeah, this name, it seems like some penny stocks are actually moving here. Key levels that we have on Wolf, right, breaking towards the upside after this nice gap up, and now we're continuing higher here. So key levels that we have marked out is going to be this 928, showing some strength here in the pre-market. Key levels now, previous day highs. If it can come back and retest, that'd be awesome, but now most likely we're pushing towards the upside. You can see we had this immediate retest off your previous day highs. Now the higher time frames, you like to see maintain above this 928 for a continuation higher. Do you leave extended hours on all day? You can toggle them on and off. I like having the extended hours on. I know some people don't like it having it on, but I personally just have it on. What indicators? I personally don't use indicators, but we have a special indicator for the Traders Lab, and then I personally just have on my other charts. I have the 921 and VWAP. Thank you for your help. Really helped me a lot with my trading skills. Love to hear that. All right. EVGOs are usually a slower mover. If it has news, it's going to be it's like all the other names. If it has news, has higher time frames, you can see some nice price action. If there's none of that, then it's just going to be a little bit of a slower mover. Okay. Please arrange the free workshop. Yeah, we also have a free workshop. I'm not sure if I have it in the description. I might post that, but we have an event coming up, an announcement in probably about like a month or now. So we have a watch list. I didn't put it yet, but we are going to have that coming out soon, which should be pretty cool. All right. Would you short Palantir if it stays heavy? Yeah, we'll actually keep an eye out on Palantir. I don't think it has too much room. I don't really like kind of the setup as much, just because if we're to mark this out, we have your previous day lows. We can mark this out 173. If we do look for a short, there's not too much room down in towards that 172, but we can keep an eye out on Palantir just because this one's staying heavy. This one's higher time frames kind of flipping here as well. But if I was interested in shorts, it definitely would. Palantir would be one I would keep an eye out on. All right. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. I'm going to get ready for market open. As I mentioned, a lot more neutral on the overall indices. So we'll keep an eye on 577 along with the Q's previous day lows. As for the rest of the names, right, keep an eye out on Apple. We have Google and Nvidia for potential bounce play. A lot of these ones more neutral. So now stick to the higher time frames, right? The 1 minute, I don't expect too much momentum to occur. So I'm going to focus in more now on the 5-minute chart. That's going to be key and most likely giving these names a little bit more breathing room than right trying to capture these on the 1 minute time frame. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. If you guys did enjoy that, appreciate if you guys drop me a like and sub. If you guys want to join the watch list, that one is in the description below. And then if you guys want to trade live with me every single day, that one's also in the description below as well. Awesome. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, peace.